Happy Monday and welcome to the Maryland Made podcast. I'm your host, Rosa Lovelace, Assistant AD for Student Athlete Development, bringing you this week's podcast. I'm super excited to host this conversation with our guest as we celebrate Women's History Month by discussing women in the workplace. As a reminder, the Maryland Made podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to empower student athletes to explore their potentials and pursue their passions. So today, in honor of Women's History Month, I have the great pleasure to have this conversation with the DMV legend, Christy Winters-Scott. Winters-Scott is a former Maryland women's basketball player, former professional athlete, women's college and high school basketball coach, sports journalist, basketball analyst for women's college basketball on ESPN, Big Ten Network, lead analyst for the WNBA's Washington Mystics and Wizards, wife and mom to 3 kids. That is a lot. I mean, we're talking about a woman who is doing it all. She is here today to tell us all about her story and why it's important for us to elevate women in all facets of life. So, Christy, I'm going to turn it over to you. I've given a very brief, and when I say very brief, rundown of your bio. So let's start from the beginning. Who is Christy Winters-Scott?
Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. And that's such a great question because just listening to the journey that I've been on, things go so quickly and, for me, you just kind of keep moving. So whenever I stop to reflect and then answer this question, which I'm trying to stall because it's tough for me to answer.
It's a lot. You've done a lot in your journey, right? And I am amazed as someone who works in sports, just like how you've been able to do all of these things really in a short time span. And other people may say not so short, but I say short because working in sports, it can be daunting sometimes. And then you add the other layers of being a wife and a mom.
Yeah.
I mean, you really are doing it all.
Yes. And, by the grace of God, I have to say that first of all. But I will say, who am I? I am compassionate. I guess I'll just use some adjectives because I think that's the best way to do it. Passionate. I am loving to the nth degree. I think for me, I grew up in a household of love and I saw compassion every day. Both my parents, my dad, he was a pastor. And he passed away 4 years ago. I'm fine. And I'm going to keep going here. But he, at 3 a.m. would get calls like, I don't have any food, Reverend, and he would put on a suit and go out the door. And my mom would get out of her pajamas, whatever, and go with him.
Wow.
And I'm like, where are they going? You know what I mean? But that's the example I saw. And it wasn't just that one time. It'd be several times over. They never said no to anyone who needed help, even if it was just to go over to their house and talk to them. So it wasn't always, a dire emergency or anything like that. It's just someone needed them and they were always there. So for me to see that daily, was something that molded my character and what I hope I could be for other people. So I hope I'm that for other people. So compassionate, number one, passionate, very animated with what I am passionate about, which is my purpose in life. So that kind of goes one and the same. And then just loving, I think that word gets kind of tossed around very easily. But I think for me, the bottom line for that is, there has to be a component of respect in that word too, because love isn't enough most times, all the time. May as well say it like that. There has to be a component of respect that's woven into that. And I know you're a fiance now, so, just to let you know that is a component of love.
Yes.
So I think, in a nutshell, that's those things, those adjectives have driven me. But I think it all spurred from, grew from, extended from the example that I had at home and in the community, because like-minded people were always together. So my parents were friends with people who were just like them in terms of extending themselves in the community, going to where people needed help. Even if people didn't ask for help, they would go in the trenches and do the trench work in the community to just help somebody. And so people were at our house all the time, but they were all the same. My mom, she was at AKA Basilisk. They would have the AKA meetings in the basement. And I pinched the door open and listened to them singing. You know what I mean? But there was always this togetherness, there's always this unified feel of love and compassion that I saw all the time. So I think that formed me. And my older brother, he's 13 months older. So we were like, people thought we were twins because we were like always around each other. I was palling around behind him, to play ball. That's how I got interested in basketball, because he was playing and I'm like, I'm going. And it would drive him crazy, but I would go. But I mean, for all four of us, it was, it was like that, just to see it all the time. Yeah.
And I love how you are rooted in community and faith, right? Yeah. We are often telling our students to find their purpose and to find their passion and to be able to grow up in a space like that. We talk about like, this isn't just your work, this is community work, because you're here to make the next generation better. And you're doing that, right? You do that every day. But I want to talk about, you just mentioned your brother, who you tagged along with, is somebody who introduced you into the sport of basketball. Tell us a little bit more about the introduction into basketball. What made you fall in love with the sport?
Oh, wow. That I have been asked before, and that's very easy for me, because for me, the first time my dad watched basketball all the time. So to get in his space at home, he was very super busy, right? We had 3 services every Sunday. Okay. Until my brother got his driver's license, then it was once and then we would leave if they didn't have a meal after. Anyway, I'm just being very transparent. But yes, we would be, all week long, we would have the church services during the week, not services, but like meetings. Oh, we have a church meeting. My mom was in the choir. We have choir on Tuesday, church meeting on Wednesday, prayer service
on another day. Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Every single, I don't even know if there was a day off. Like, we were always at the church, like always. And then all day Sunday. And then if there were road trips, we'd get on that bus and we'd be gone until 10 o'clock at night, like 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. So my brother and I lived that life. And it was awesome for me because I was the baby sister. But I guess I think I was 7 years old, and my dad put a hoop up on our driveway. And my brother was out there shooting with some neighbors, these boys, and I wanted to play. We had a backyard, we had like the jungle gym, and we had this hill that was great for rolling when the leaves were there. It was like, we had a really good backyard. Our backyard was so good. And I'm 7 or 8 years old. So, you need free spaces, and we had that. And then my dad was like, he's going to put up a hoop. So I'm like, oh, this is another thing to play with. I was very active. I was very energetic. Did not like sitting around. Same goes for today. I don't like sitting in the house. I don't like watching movies per se. I'm on the move. I like to be on the move. So as a kid, to put up a hoop, and then my brother's out there bouncing the ball around, I'm like, let's go. Let me find out what's going on. So as the years go by, we ended up moving, but we still put a hoop in the backyard of our next house. But the first house, we had like actual concrete. So, on the driveway. So the hoop, it was different, and it was good because the ball would pretty much come back to you, it wouldn't go anywhere. But in our new house that we got, we moved to Reston when I was 8. So it was like maybe the next year, 8, 9 years old. And it was in the backyard, but it was dirt, right? So there were tree roots, and there was this one in particular tree root where I would hit and go all the way to the fence. So that was kind of a pain. I don't want to sound bougie.
It got the cardio in for you.
It got the cardio in. It got the cardio in. And the ball was dirty, so my hands were gross. And I was sweating, and it was all dirty back there. But I would be back there all day long with my brother and his friends. I would be palling around with him. Some of our friends had courts on their driveways, so sometimes we would go over there, or my brother would be planning to go over, and I'd be like 2 steps behind him, and he's like, oh my God, Mom, don't let her go with me. And she's just like, just let her go. She doesn't have to play. I was like, no, I'm playing. Like, I'm gonna be playing. So yeah, put me on the team. So it was totally like the Love and Basketball movie. I'm not even lying. And you know, in this regard, then I was getting my shot blocked into the, you know, into the car that was on the driveway, you know, and I finally figured out a way, because I didn't want them to play soft on me. I'm like, no, like,
you want to play, yeah.
Play the right way, not, oh, you're a girl, so I'm not going to guard you. Because that happened, you know, when I got a little older. I'm like, excuse me, but that's another story. But when I was out there playing with my brother and his friends, you know, it got to the point where, you know, I was either going to sink or swim when it came to competing.
Yep.
So they were blocking my shot. I was skinny little thing, you know, they were knocking me all over the place. And I'm like, that's all right. That's all right. I need that. You know, I'm trying to body up on people, because I was tall, but I was like so like thin. But I was trying to body up on people. And then all of a sudden, I learned how to get this turnaround jumper. And the shot went in. And they were like, somebody check her. And I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, I found something I can use. So that ended up being like my go-to move all the time. And I had other stuff, but that was like, I would say
that was it.
75% of my time shooting the ball from high school all the way through like AAU, college, overseas. That was like my most comfortable shimmy, shake, and fade. Nobody could get to it. Most time, I don't know. I think I got it blocked one time by Andrea Stinson back when she was at NC State. But that was the only time I ever got that shot blocked. And not to say I made all of them, but I got that shot off. I got it off because of all those reps playing with my brother and his friends. So, I mean, we're extremely close, obviously, not just in age, but I think, you know, it got to the point where, you know, he didn't yell quite as much when I was following him to go play. He's like, okay, come on, let's go play. And then, you know, we would hoop. So it was tough at the beginning, but I think he realized that I really did love competing. And I really was like challenging myself against these guys every day. You know, we played all day, every day. And then there was this court in Reston called Twin Branches. It would be 4 or 5 games down. Like, you can't lose in those games. So it would be like Grant Hill's over there, Dennis Scott, like all these local, like future NBA guys, you know, that are playing. And we'd be over there all day. There's no lights over there. So as soon as I would ride my bike all the way down there, drive my mom crazy, because it was all the way down through the wooded part of Reston, which is very woodsy. And she was like, oh my gosh, I thought when the sun went down, I just pictured you being on the side of the road somewhere. I was like, no, I was pedaling. I was pedaling fast. But I had last game, and I'm like, I'm not leaving. You know? So I'm playing. So I stayed, and I was like pedaling my butt off to get home. But no, just a lot of great stories of pickup basketball with my brother, you know, and I would kind of throw stuff at him at home and sprint up the steps, you know, 3 at a time, and beat him down the hallway. So my cardio got good with that too. So I was the pesky little sister, but I had a lot of humor with me too. Little mischievous, I love it. Little mischievous, you know, here and there, but nothing over the top, but to me, really funny. So
no, and that obviously carried you to great lengths, right? Like, became this legend in Northern Virginia. I mean, you mentioned it, playing with people like Grant Hill, well, maybe people younger than us. I don't know. I grew up watching Grant Hill. You also mentioned Andrea Stinson, who, again, I know, but I don't know, you know, who else knows her, because I followed the WNBA a lot. But you had all of this talent, and probably could have gone anywhere you wanted to, you know, and you chose to come to Maryland. And I love it, because you stayed here, you helped grow the game here. Well, what made you really want to lean into staying in this space and continuing to grow your legend?
Man, you know, the recruiting process was so crazy for me. And I say that with a humble heart. Hold on, let me take that off. Sorry about that.
Nope,
Am I back in? Sorry. Oh my gosh. Am I back in?
Yep, you're back.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Hey. For me, it was daunting, because, and I say that with a humble heart, I was saying before I was interrupted there. But for me, it was very different then, because there weren't any limits on how many calls or letters you could get. So it was overwhelming to be 15, 16, 17, and to have to speak to adults I'd never met. There were no Zooms then, like I'm talking to these people and they're like, we'd like to come for a home visit. And, I remember Andy Landers, he was at Georgia and they'd gone to Final Fours and, and I knew who he was because I followed the game. My dad gave me like newspapers. So I followed like college basketball on the women's side and, fell in love with Cheryl Miller and her story and how she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated where it said Miller time. And I was just enthralled and just loved seeing the respectability for women's basketball on that platform. But for me to sit and talk to people I didn't know, it was a lot. So I didn't say no to any of the visits. So all of October, I had all these home visits with everybody from everywhere. Oh my gosh. And it was not the smartest thing because I didn't know how to iron through it. So I was telling everybody, yes, I had Andy Landers in there. I had, I don't know, Penn State was in there, NC State, like everybody. So it was quite something for me to kind of piece through all that. And God bless my mom for having food ready every day of the month of October during my senior year. But Virginia, Debbie Ryan was in the house. And I remember, and I love Debbie Ryan. And she said at the end of that visit, you probably won't play till you're a junior. And not that I thought I was the greatest because I wasn't. And I was like, I wanted to work. I wanted to earn my opportunity and to kind of be told without necessarily directly being told that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, you're going to sit for 2 years. Because I was very thin. I was 6'1", 136 pounds. So let's get the picture painted. Yep. I was very, very thin. But I was competitive. I was fiercely competitive. I was like, my drive was like through the roof. Like, don't measure that with height and weight, okay? Because I was very tough-minded, I think, especially with myself. I was very competitive. I pushed myself. I loved the game. Just wanted to shoot and wanted to just to get better and just to work, just working. Yeah. So for me, I didn't want to hear, no matter what I did, the trench work, the grind work, you still have to wait. I just didn't think I could do that because I love the game too much. And Virginia was one of the, Maryland sent me my first letter, summer of 8th grade. And then I got the one right after that from Virginia. So those, 2 schools were on my list very high. But when she said that, I was like, I can't wait 2 years, regardless of what I do. So that kind of turned that off for me. But when I went to Maryland for the visit, and I visited other schools like NC State, and it was very rural there. And I loved Kay Yao, rest in peace. I loved her, and her spirit was so soothing, and but she had that drive. So I felt like we were like the same. Like we had the compassion piece, we had the passion piece, but we also had the love piece. And I thought all those things that you asked who I was. I checked the box for all those things with Kay Yao. It was just a little bit too far. It was like, we flew there on the visit. My mom and I we went and had all the meetings and met with advisors and met the team. I was there with a lot of other people on the visit, but I just felt like I was buttoned up there, if that makes sense. I just felt like I was and I wasn't like, people don't think that I was shy. I was very shy in high school. I had my friends, but outside of that, I really wasn't like, hey, everybody, the tap dance, throw the arms back. That wasn't me. But I think being a parent and a coach kind of brought out, a lot of my loquaciousness, but I did not have that when I was 16, 17, And so when I was on that visit, I just felt like I was very reserved, very quiet, and no shade either way. But they took me to a party or something like that. I had never been to a party. I'd gone to high school homecoming, high school prom. It was very like, But I went to a college party, and I was like, what's happening? Like, I was very, I was pretty sheltered, coming through, and not in a mean way, no shade to my parents. It was just like that. I wasn't at the parties. I wasn't I went to my high school homecoming and saw all these fun things, everybody did. I was like, where was I? I didn't do any of that stuff. Like, I know I was whooping, but I was like, I missed all that. Like, seriously. But I really didn't do a lot of social things outside of school functions and stuff like that. So when I went to a party there, I was just like, oh no, like, no, it was a lot. Like for me, I was like, mm-mm. And it wasn't like, and it was fine. There was nothing like bad going on, but it was just like, for me, that was not my
New
personality.
environment, new people.
All of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So when I went to Maryland on the visit, I loved it. I was up late till, I don't know, 2 a.m. cackling with all the players. And I don't know, I just felt like I was myself. Went to a football tailgate, went to the football game, sat in the student section, got busted in the head with a plastic cup, laughed my head off to the point where no noise was coming out. And I was just cracking up at myself. And I was like, if I can do that, I mean, I know it's like a minor deal. But also, I know just staying in this area, I knew I wanted to get into broadcasting too. And I knew that would be a big leverage piece for me, not just for the 4 years at Maryland, but for the 40 years after. And that's what people like to say. It's not the 4, but the 40. And for me, I think, I was looking at that as well. And, they were talking about internships and the classes that were available. There was at the time radio, television, and film as a major. So I started in that, but then, went into communications and then minored in sociology, which I really enjoyed the sociology classes. Because there were a lot of argumentation and debate classes within the sociology. So there was a lot of, and that kind of brought out, like my shyness too, just to be in classes like that, where you had to argue and debate topics, even if you didn't believe in them. So it's like they would just hand you, this is what you're going to argue about. And you have to be really intentional about your argument about it. So you had to research it and then, really drive it home. So for me, it was hard because I was so like, you could see everything on my face. Like, yeah, sure. That's what it, like that. Like me. And still to this day, I'm pretty gullible and straightforward. And I'm just going to say it like I see it. But for me, that was quite a challenge, but I love challenges as a student and a student athlete. But I think just being around the team, being able to be myself and not be buttoned up. I know there's this picture of me I had on a Maryland basketball tank top and a pom-pom. I had my sunglasses on. I was at the tailgate and I was like, mouth wide open, just having like the best time. And I'm like, that's why I came to Maryland. Like the spirit was there for me. The spirit of sport, the spirit of team, and just the ability to be genuinely myself, which, I mean, I think, and you'll see this once you get married and everything and kids, if that's what happens for you, like just all of that, kind of pause for a minute. So sometimes I just at this moment anyway, reflecting back to how free I was in that moment at the tailgate and at the football game. Like, I feel like that now. Like I've 2 in college and, 1 sophomore in high school now. So there's like this different kind of feeling that I have about life and about me and who I am. And so for you to start it with who is Christy Winters-Scott, I think I'm still processing that, but I feel that there are a lot of similarities to making that big decision. And who am I and what do I want, is kind of what I'm going through right now. It's kind of it's like a 2.0 in terms of identity and what I want for myself and what I want next and how I'm going to get that. And I think being genuine and true to myself has really brought a bright light to my spirit recently. So
I love that. And something I like to talk about, whether it's here at work or just in life, is like your identity changes as you grow, right?
Yep.
Things become different, your outlook on life. And we talk about it like there's like this reset button I feel like people hit every 5 years because life really changes. And I feel like really since COVID, life has sped up in some ways and slowed down in some other ways.
Yes.
And it's great to watch people take the journey and figure out like what is really important and what is really their priority and the way that they want to move. And so like even just kind of watching you process through this conversation has been really great. And I think just again, like watching your journey and seeing how you have been this huge proponent of women, right? Not just women in sports, but women. Yes. And I want to know, like, for you, as we sit here in Women's History Month and we just celebrated International Women's Day, like, what does it mean to you? Like, why are you so excited to celebrate this month?
Oh man. And number one, just like Black History Month, I think Women's History Month should be something that's every day and not just here and there, everywhere. I think that it's it's been proven,
Mm.
right, that women can do more than you think they can. We can. I think that when you give the opportunities to women,
Mhm.
you've seen great things happen. And I think not just in sports, but just in general, as you said, I think we've seen over the last 5, 10 years, the opportunities
Yep.
open up for women, right? And I said this on International Women's Day recently. I said, that it's not, I mean, it is about equality because we do want that, right? But there are pictures that I've seen of equality, like, okay, here's equality, here's the fence, but your box is this big.
Yep.
And everyone else, like, your box is this big, right?
Mhm.
You have a box though, right? And you're standing on that box, but you still can't see over the fence because
Mhm.
I mean, is that what we really want? Do we want just what everyone else has? No, we want the same opportunities.
Yep.
Okay. And that's different. Give us the same level box so we can also rise
Yep.
and see, right? Don't play with us and say, well, we gave you the box just like everybody else. No, you didn't. Okay. Everybody else is already up here.
Yep.
So we're starting from different places. You don't understand that part. Okay.
Mhm.
So start us all in the same place. Okay. And give us the same opportunities and then see what happens. And I think we've seen what has been capable, right?
Mhm.
Um, we've seen what has been possible. We've seen what has been measurable in terms of differences of what equality is and what opportunity is. Like, we need the same opportunities given to us that we've earned. Like, we're not asking you to give opportunities to women just because we're a woman. We're asking for the same opportunities because we are qualified,
Yep.
dignified, we are prepared,
Yep.
we are epically competitive with what we love to do. And we need to be in a place where there's an understanding of that, number one. The people who are hiring women
Mhm.
understand that, number two. And number three, we need to show our young people, our young girls, that there is possibility and be that representative of perseverance and resilience. And nevertheless, she persisted attitude.
Mhm.
Because, man, I've been told no more times than I've been told yes in the workforce. So let's just start there. And I don't want to go down that road necessarily. Maybe I will, but there have been so many no's where I could have folded the chair up and been like, nah, I'm gonna go just get a 9 to 5 and just settle for
Mhm.
whatever. But who am I when you ask me that? I'm not a settler.
Yep.
If I go to the store and I'm like, I don't see this out here. Can you go check in the back and go get that? That's me.
Yep.
Right. And I don't settle for it. And if they don't have it back there, at least I know now it's not back there either.
Yep.
But I'm not going to be like, well, I don't see it and forget it. No, I'm going to keep pressing until I
Mhm.
get a bona fide answer. Not just, well, I'm not going to speculate, and just say, well, that's just not going to happen for me and just say, forget it. No, I'm driven to the point of, it's probably, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad. It's pretty built in me that way. Not to give in or just settle, for things.
You.
You just can't do that. I mean, I went and got some stuff printed out today, and usually they put it in the little folder. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And it was a lot. It was like, I'm getting ready for the NCAA tournament, get my notes, stuff together. And, you know, they're like, here you go. And just put the folder down and the paper down and the receipt down. And I'm like, and not that I'm some queen you have to like, because I'm not like that either. I'm not like that either. However, I left the folder there and I was like, I'm not taking the folder. And so that was me saying, like, wow, I'm not gonna be disrespected. Respect, right? We're talking about that. I'm not gonna be disrespected. I felt like that was disrespectful, because I go there all the time, and it's usually put in the folder. Like, what happened? Like, good business is good business, but also, I'm not settling for being treated any old kind of way either. I'm not. So guess what? You're gonna have to go pick that back up. So I'm not. And it may seem like a petty pants thing, but for me, I'm in a different space when it comes to that. I think 5-10 years ago, I would have like, oh, let me just put that in the folder and gone about my day. But I was like, I was indifferent about that. I was like, wow, like, I'm not like good enough to like just do the one extra thing. So I left it there. So I think that's where I am now, is, to have, 3 kids, boy, girl, boy, especially my daughter, to see that, I'm not going to settle, and to make sure that she is, seeing me, right? Stand in not only, my purpose, but, it might be different for her. Purpose might be different for her, but to show her that she can also stand in her purpose, whatever that is for her, but to show her a blueprint mentally of what not to settle for, and what to demand from others. Because I feel like, you give respect, you get respect, right? And when that doesn't happen, then we just have to move along.
You have said a whole word, and I hope that the people who are listening and watching caught everything you just said, because you really are leading me into why we're even having this conversation today. And I said this in our pre-meeting, right? Like, we're gearing up to celebrate a new program that we're putting together for our students called Women in the Workplace. Really an open and honest conversation with our female student athletes who want to work in high demanding careers, but also want to have the family life potentially. And they're trying to figure out, how do I navigate all of these things? So we're bringing in 4 women to sit on a panel and have this really open and honest conversation. And I'm so excited because you're the lead into this. And so I think as we're sitting here having this conversation today, I would like to know for you, and we touched on this a little bit earlier, great playing career in college, you moved on to the professional ranks, right? And now you have to make this decision on, what is the career that I want to go to? You talked about Maryland was the landing place for you because you knew journalism was great here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So as you navigated this, like, how did you go from jump to landing in this dream career that you have?
Oh boy. How long can this podcast be? Because that was such a character building segment or chapter for me, because just like when you go and start to play a basketball game, just for example, just a microcosm of the thought process. So just bear with me for a moment. So when you go and play, jump ball goes up. For me, there was never, ever, as a player, coach, parent watching my kids, like, there's never, ever an entrance in my mind about losing or it being over or, anything like that. Everything from that moment to the buzzer is about winning. And so when the final buzzer goes off on games, right, and maybe you don't win or whatever, it's not going to be because of lack of effort. Okay. So I think when you can build that into kind of a life lesson, right? Every day you want to win, right? Every day you want to, you don't entertain losing because you don't want to lose. Like, I hated losing more than I love winning. And that's saying a ton. Okay. Hated losing, still to this day. But for me, I think sports built that mentality in me. So outside of sports, for me, it was always, it is still always super competitive in my thinking, in my processes, in my non-settling mentality, like, oh, that's not going to work out, just forget it. That's not me. That rubs me the wrong way. That makes my ribs tighten up physically, and I get sick. I don't like that thought process. So it's, to me, that's weak-minded. And even if you do not settle and things don't work out, at least you push to the limit. You push to the limit. like, don't, for me, it's like, you can't just give in so easily. So for me, I don't do that. But for me also, I think with sports, I think a lot of times you don't understand when you're going through it, that your character is being developed. And for me, trying to navigate my college basketball career being over, it was devastating. Yeah. I'm not even going to front. I was scared. I know I'm not alone either, because we didn't have resources like a lot of universities around the country, where we had touchstones and, mental health avocation. We didn't have anywhere to go. I mean, my teammates and I mean, we all knew that we kind of felt the same way about a lot of things, like Title IX, about not having the same shoes, not having the same gear, not having the same training table or housing. Okay. All of it was different. We knew that it was different. We knew that it wasn't right. We didn't have anywhere to take it. All right. But at the same time, we all knew, like, as a team, that we were going through the same struggles, that we understood it, and there was nowhere to go with it. And that didn't condone it being right, but we just didn't know how to make it better. So, I know a lot of people can relate to that. And even if you didn't play basketball or any other sport, when you're coming out of college, that is a huge jump to make. Well, how Steve Harvey says, like, take the jump, and just trust, that all the work that you've done is going to pay off. And that's kind of how it felt. There was like a free fall. I didn't know that I was going to go overseas and play ball. I graduated in December because I didn't want to take, there were some opportunities to go overseas right when I finished in the spring that year, to go overseas in that summer, but I had like 9 credits to get. So I did like an internship with NBC here in DC with George Michael, Sports Machine, for that whole semester. I got 6 credits, and I think I took 1 class to get my 9, but I got my degree in December. So I finished in the middle of the year. I didn't know if I was going to play collegiately, and professionally. I'd already finished my collegiate career, and it was a scary time. It was a scary time. I'm not even going to front. That was not cute. There were a lot of tears and confusion, and not a lot of guidance, right? And I stayed prayed up, to trust and believe. I told you, my dad, people at church praying for me, make sure her directions are, your will and everything. And I'm like, I'm good. But I still, even with that, the clarity was not there. I did not know what was going to happen. And then an opportunity came for me to go play ball in Italy. And I was like, I'd never been, I'm from Reston, Virginia. I was like 40 minutes from College Park. So I'd never been that far away from home. But I was like, I'm going. So I went and played ball in Pistoia, Italy. Didn't know the language. My coach didn't speak English. It was the Whole Love of Basketball movie. I know I referenced that a lot, but that was me, y'all. That was me. For the love of the game, you just set yourself up over there. No creature comforts. I was gone. I know my mom said she didn't eat until she heard my voice when I landed. Like, she was like sick to her stomach. So it was, as a mom now, I feel that. At the time, I was like, just go get you a sandwich. Why didn't you get something to eat? But now I'm like, yeah, I get it. The stress of a mom is a tough deal. But anyway, once I did that, stepped out on faith, took the jump, played over there. They were cheering my name, Chris. And I was like, oh, shoot. Like, okay. That's the only English I heard the whole time I was there was my name. But it was still fun because I love playing. And it was a challenge, to be over there. My dad was like, keep your passport on you, because you don't know the language. You don't have problems. We don't want any problems. So everywhere I went, because I like to walk around, it was beautiful there. Beautiful Northwest Italy. Like, seriously, it was beautiful. So I would take walks. I love walking. So it was an awesome time. And I was 22. So it was like, I'm in Italy at 22 playing ball. No one understood me. I didn't understand anyone, but I had a blast.
Living the dream.
I was living the dream.
Living the dream that a lot of our athletes want to live. And then I like that you referenced, before going to Italy, you had an internship here with one of our big DC news stations, right? So you're gone to Italy, and I think you played in another country for another couple of years. But then you
Yeah.
come back here. So
Yeah.
how did you keep those connections going to land some of the opportunities that you've had in sports journalism?
Oh my gosh. I remember I sent out my resume to like 25 different places, like throughout DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia, just, small stations, big stations, trying to make connections with people that I like shadowed, like Mike Wilbon and James Brown and David Aldridge, who were all writers at the time. Sorry, buddies. Who were writers at the time for the Washington Post. So I would go and I was doing some work with CTV 76, which was a public access station in PG County, Maryland. And we did this show called the Roundball Report. And that's kind of how, I don't want to say that's what got me back here, but I just felt like when I was overseas, I played there for 3 years professionally. And, I'm in my mid 20s at the time. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can just stay over here for my life. Like I don't, because I had, again, I didn't want to settle. So there's that whole me again, the motor running in my head. Like, I don't want to just sit over here for 10, 15 years and just be away from everybody, be, in environments that are, no creature comforts. They don't know the language. I don't know the language. It's a lot, like, to process. And the love of the game was immense, which is why I was there in the first place. But I don't know if that was going to be able to keep me for 10, 12 years over there. I mean, that was a lot. So for me, I was like, man, let me just see what I can do back at home. So I was sending out resumes from overseas. Like I had this big thing. There was nothing really else to do there anyway outside of practice. I had a key to the gym. I could go to the gym anytime I wanted to go to work out. They were great. My whole team and the gym and everybody, you do whatever you want in the gym and all. But for me, I was like, I need plan B just in case, right? Just in case, I'm not going to come back and play. I got to have something else. So I got a couple bites in that CTV opportunity came up, but it was a non-paid situation. So it wasn't like, it was not like I was leaving for money. And everyone's like, oh, why are you doing that? You're not getting any money. And I was like, because I want to learn. And that was a sacrifice, obviously. And then the babies start coming, right? So I'm like, it's all right. Like, I'm still, but while I was going through that chapter of my life, I was still able to meet people. I was still able to let people know what my dreams, goals, aspirations are. And through faith, those things kind of materialize as the years progress. Now, this is something that did not happen quickly. So just to be clear on that, I mean, it was a whole process. And there were dark days where I was like, man, listen, 3 babies, 5, 3, and an infant. I'm, that was, like you said, like, what's next? What am I doing? Like, what exactly is happening? I tried to get back I coached in college before the babies, got back into college coaching when my oldest was like 2 and my youngest, Bree, was like 10 months old. And I coached for a year, and I couldn't do it. I thought I could tap into, my athletic mindset, push through, drive through. You can do this, go recruiting, be gone from Sunday to Thursday, see them for a day, and then go back out on the road. And I'm like, listen, I did it for 8 months. And I was like, okay. Then the South Lakes out. It's not you, it's me. And that was exactly what I told her. But anyway, I left and went and coached high school basketball. And I had my babies in the gym with me with goldfish and juice boxes. And we were living the dream during that time, honey. They were skateboarding on the ball rack, balls going everywhere. Ball rack fall over. I'm like, Lord have mercy. During practice, I had my baby in the pouch, taking a nap. And I'm like, go box out. And I peek and he's good. So it was like, I raised them in the gym with me, to the point of when they got to be elementary age, they were walking around in crowded games to go get popcorn. I'm like, excuse me, they were just that comfortable in the gym, running all around. But I loved it. And the sacrifice of that chapter is kind of what made this moment happen, because I did that, and not to be rewarded for it. So not saying it in that way, but I knew at that time that I wasn't going to settle for not being around them to have a pocket of money, because to me, that was not enough. So I had to respect myself enough to not be in it for the money, but to be in it for the love of my kids and that moment in their lives. And I don't think anybody else understood that. My dad, my brother, and my husband. So I think at that time they were like, why are you not coaching in college? You need to coach in college and get that money, blah, 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 blah. And my mom was like, you will never get this time with your kids back. But
rooted
you can,
in family.
Thank you.
Rooted in family. You grew up rooted in family.
Absolutely. Yep. And so she said, you can get back to coaching, but you can't get this back. And I'm like, boom. And for me, I was like, that's all I needed to hear, you know, from her, the wisdom in that moment as a mom, right? Because she sacrificed a lot. She was very busy. She has a PhD in education. So she was always taking classes or teaching classes. Like she was always doing that. And I said, running with my dad as a preacher's wife, you know, with everything that everyone else needed. So, you know, to hear that from her, that just solidified me stepping away from the grindstone of college coaching, and went back to my alma mater and coached, and ended up coaching my daughter, and we won back-to-back championships. So it's like, I didn't see that coming, but things happen for a reason. And I know she was going to play. It's like, whatever. I mean, I said they're all three raised in the gym, but I didn't know. That's not why I took that job. Right. I took that job so I could still have part of my passion living inside of me with coaching and mentoring these young girls and women. But at the same time, my kids right there with me. And although my pockets were empty as a mug, that wasn't the be all end all for me. So, but looking back, I'm so glad I did it that way. So no regrets.
And I love this, because I hope that the people that listen to this today hear the purpose, right? Like, you grew up rooted in family and faith. You're navigating an industry that oftentimes will put your family on the back burner, right? Like, it is, we often say athletics is a 24-hour, 7 days a week type of job. And for you to hear from your mom and say, you're never gonna get this time back, and you spent the time with your kids, being able to still give into the sport that you love by coaching high school. I want to talk about, you know, now we're a few years, your kids are older. You got some more opportunities thrown at you to be able to be a basketball analyst on all of these networks, still coaching high school, and still raising a family and being a wife. How do you do it all?
Well, breaking news. I did not coach this year.
Oh, okay.
For the first time in a long time, because my daughter's playing at Georgetown. She just finished her sophomore year. And our youngest son is playing in high school. He's a sophomore in high school at South Lakes. Go Seahawks. But I tried to, last year, when they were both freshmen playing, I tried to coach too. And when I tell you, the same pull and angst that I had when I was coaching college basketball, when they were babies, and me being gone from, you know, Sunday to Thursday, and, you know, missing things with them, even if it's a puppet show. Listen, I dragged them to all the puppet shows, honey. Like, we went to everything, you know. But for me, it was the same exact emotion of making a decision, whether it be me doing what's best for me, or me doing what everyone else wanted me to do. And when they were babies, everyone, except my mom, wanted me to take a college job. You get that money, honey, get that, you know, you get that car, get that money, get the, you know. And I'm like, that's not me, right? Almost like when I went to that college party, like, this looks nice.
Not me.
It's not me, for right now, right? So for me, I was like, nope, I'm not going to compromise my integrity by telling my players who I'm coaching to be focused in the lines. Not fair for me to be wondering what the score of my kid's game is.
Mm.
And at halftime, this is a true story, halftime, 2 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes on the clock, I send the kids, the team, back out to warm up, lay up lines, whatever, get some water. And I would tell the coaches, like, text me with a minute on the clock and I'm gonna come out. And I would check on my phone the scores of my kids' games, my own birthed babies who were playing down the street or a breeze away somewhere, but they're playing and I'm in my phone like, how are they doing?
Yep.
Not fair. So for me, I felt like they knew that. I felt like the kids can feel that stuff. Like I knew, because I told you I don't have a poker face. Like my stuff is on my sleeves. Like I couldn't hide that. And not that I would discuss it, but I think in my tone, maybe, I'm sure I was very transparent emotionally, telling them, hey, we got to be locked in to these lines, like be focused. And I'm like, man, I'm asking them to do that. And I'm
not doing it.
And I'm out the door with my thinking right now. And I just said, that's not fair. And I mean, that's my alma mater. That's, you know, that was another tough decision to make. But, you know, I'm only a year, not even a full year out of stepping away. And I'm not retired. So coaching, like my mom said, you can always get back to that. So I'm holding that. I'm holding that wisdom. But people are like, oh, I heard you retired. I'm like, no. I was like, I just stepped away.
I'm taking a pause. I'm taking a pause
for a minute. But for me, I had to do it. And there was so much joy in being able to go see my kids play this year. My actual kids, because I always called my players my kids too, my babies. Like I love my babies. But my own birthed babies, the soul pull from not being able to be there as much as I wanted to their freshman seasons. You know, I didn't want to do that again. And so, but how do I do it all? I think it's making those compromises and sacrifices. The things that are uncomfortable for me end up being the best things for me at that time. And being uncomfortable has made me more comfortable emotionally. And it did that when they were babies, when I had to make a big decision, and then take it back to collegiately when I finished playing. I was so uncomfortable. And, you know, and this is helping me. This is helping me because I never stopped to really think about the journey and all of those forks in the road where, you know, it could have been a different life for me in a lot of ways. So I think where I am now, I'm just a genuine thinker. I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity in situations. I'm not going to not be true to my spirit and my soul. If my spirit, my soul, my heart is telling me something over and over again, and I was like pushing away, like, but this is my alma mater. Like, I want to see this class graduate. I've known them since they were summer campers. They were like 8th grade, you know. I'm like, I want to see these guys through, but there's always going to be another class you want to see through. There's always going to be the next. So I had to be real with myself, and to be able to be at peace. And I think, you know, so many people said to me at the beginning of this year, you look different. Like there's something different about you. And I'm like, seriously, you know, I'm like, is Maybelline or something? You know, I don't know. But I don't know. I think people could feel that I was lifted in a lot of ways emotionally, because it really was something that was taxing on my spirit last year. Not to be there for my own kids, but I was there for everybody else's kids. Like other parents are there watching their kids, and then my kids are without their mom at the games, you know. And so it was really hard. Hi, Jordan.
No.
Sorry, Jordan.
No, I mean, I think that's really an important message. Like I said, I'm 37. I don't know that kids were ever really on my radar, but it's just like, you know, maybe in my 20s they probably were, but then I was thinking career first, right? And I wonder how many people that are my age and younger also are in that space of like, do I build my career and then wait on the family and maybe it happens one day? Or do I stay true to what I want earlier on? And I think I wish we had, as you said to me earlier, I wish we had people like me when you were in college. I wish I had someone like you who was having this conversation with me when I was younger to say like, no, it's okay to push pause right now
Yeah.
and go have the life you want to have. The career will always be there. You will, if it's meant to be, it will be.
Yes, that's exactly
So
it.
I really appreciate like that, the authenticity that you just gave, that like you've been preaching this whole time. So I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this conversation as well. Be like, that was a message. I need to come back to that. But I do want to switch gears really quickly.
Sure.
March Madness is here.
Yes,
Lots of things happening in college and pro sports, right?
absolutely.
What do you see as the future of women's sports? Not just basketball. I know that's where your arena is, but like overall, like where is this going?
Oh, I mean, it's new heights, right? I think we've seen it with the women's soccer team. We've seen it in the WNBA with their new collective bargaining agreement that they set up last year, and that's continuing to change and evolve. But I also think, we've seen it with our young girls. I mean, for me, that's where it is. I think, I was just at the Big Ten tournament, right before March Madness started. And I mean, there were so many young girls there with signs like, let's go Caitlin Clark, or let's go Iowa, or I don't know. And for every school, the Indiana kids, like 2-year-old with this candy striped pants on with a high ponytail wearing a Grace Berger shirt. It's like, there's so much love and respect for women in sports right now. And I know, like you said, basketball is my wheelhouse, but I mean, that's everywhere you look right now. I mean, Serena Williams doing what she did and the fandom that came with that. And, just the WNBA and the presence and the AU league, that's going on right now that is just tremendous. And that's only 2 years in. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities. And that goes back to what I was saying, right? About the opportunities being different. So, I mean, last year was the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And I don't know what it was like 50 years ago, other than the history that we've heard, especially during that week-long, celebration of the 50 years. And I think everyone kind of came out of that the same way, and speaking that it's changed a lot. And we appreciate that. But here I am with my non-settling mode of mentality saying there's so much more we can do, especially for the next generation. And, when I was coaching in high school, we had summer camps every year. And that was, I mean, outside of obviously the tactical part of coaching and the mentorship of directly coaching the high school kids, to be their best selves, okay, and to be genuine with themselves. Like as teenagers, that's not an easy thing. Right. Everybody has different personalities, but I think as a mom, coaching kind of helped me with that. All 3 of my kids are different personalities. I appreciate that. I love that because I was different than my brother was. So it's like, I appreciate that. And you're supposed to be different. But at the same time, to be able to, try to maneuver and piece all those pieces of the puzzle together and make a winning unit was the challenge that I love so much. But when you see these young little campers who have never played before, and then on the last day of camp make their first bucket and run down and smile and like they have hope.
Yep.
But they also have opportunity. So I think, where do I see women in sports going? I mean, it's going to become an avalanche of success is what we're going to see. With our women, because of the example and the representation that the pros now are setting forth, the respectability that the pro leagues are gaining in the marketplace, and everywhere else. I mean, you see the stadiums are packed. At the Iowa first, second rounds, 15,000 sold out on the very first day for all 3 games. I mean, and I'm sure it's like that everywhere else, but that's just the one that pops up in my head. But I'm like, 15K, it was only on sale for like a couple of hours and done, sold out, no more tickets. That's it. That's where I see the game growing to, and sports for women growing to, and the love and compassion, right? Here come my words again, just shining through. But I think it all starts with the opportunity, and parents need to present that for their kids. Parents need to present, the respect of verbiage and narrative that you use for women in sports, because we're future leaders, we're future CEOs. And I mean, if you're not going to be a pro athlete, you're going to be a pro doing something. Okay. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. So for me, if you're going to compete on the field, on the court, you're going to compete when you step off that court too. You don't turn that off and become some mealy mouth, like, well, whatever you say. No, you're going to be fiercely competitive, because that's how you were built, right? Through sports. So through sports, you're seeing the current collegiate and pro players setting the platform for these babies who are watching them. You know how they are watching them and learning how to compete. Even if they never played college basketball, even if they never played pro ball or whatever, but they are seeing how mechanically to organize their thoughts and confidence, which is a huge word for women, confidently walk in their purpose, make choices that make them whole, and not worry about everybody else's opinions of them, which is tough these days with social media and everybody having an opinion with no credence whatsoever, right? But they just want to spew out negative things, and you absorb that stuff. I mean, the love and hate I have with social media, man. I love it for the connections, but I hate it for the hate, right?
And listen, I'm glad I didn't grow up in this era. I'm glad I was an adult when it happened.
Same. But I mean, for me, it'll always be about the next generation. I mean, it was like that for me. I had, Robin Roberts and Cheryl Miller and, people like that who, show me what was possible. To be a sports broadcaster, and to stay close to the game, but to still have that passion. So, I mean, there's always somebody that you can look to. And I think a lot of those young kids have their little eyes upon these players and athletes of all sports. And they're just enamored by the possibilities of the opportunity to do the same thing. And even if it's not athletically, but to think the same way about themselves. And that is the bottom line. That's what you want. You're forming the character and the thought process and the confidence in these young 10, 11, 12-year-old girls who aspire to be great at whatever it is that they do, at whatever it is. It doesn't have to be sports, but if it is, then let's go. But if it's not, let's go too. I mean, it's all right. But as long as they understand that they can do it and they have the wherewithal and the pride in themselves and the purpose, then our job is pretty complete, but far from over. We're still working for that.
This next generation it's gonna flip the world on its head. Like they see things differently than we do, and I love it for every piece of it. But as we start to wrap up today, and I talk about the college students that we have, that we work with every day, what is a piece of advice you would give to all of our female student athletes as they're continuing college, but also like that next step once they graduate?
Wow. So many things just raced through my head. Let me see if I can get one solid thought. I mean, and it may be cliche, but I mean, it popped up 3 times, so it must mean I have to say it. Just be true to yourself. Be true. And however hard that is. Sorry.
Nope, you're good. Take a moment. It's a really hard question to answer sometimes.
Yeah. I'm good. But just, stay true to yourself. Even if other people don't understand what that is, you know what it is. I'm good. Sorry. I just went back. All the years flashed in front of me. But just stay true to what you want out of life. Have no regrets. Trust your heart and your spirit and your soul, because it's never wrong. every soul pull that I had has pulled me in the right direction. Even though sometimes my mind may have thought, nah, I can push through, nah, just settle and just do whatever. I'm glad I didn't do that. So, so stay true to yourself, stay confident, trust your instincts when it comes to decisions that are based on what your heart is feeling. Trust that. But also have faith in everything that you are doing and how hard you're doing it, the grind of it, the trench work that you are doing. It's not for nothing. Every day, get that 1% better, even if it's with understanding something better. Doesn't have to be something athletic or something in your skill set, that's better that day. But mentally, if you can challenge yourself every day to be better, then ultimately you're gonna be an extreme, iconic, epically successful young woman who is a leader. And you have to be able to lead yourself before you can lead anybody else. Don't forget that, because that's a major deal. But you have to be bold in that. That's not easy. That's very easy to say, but not easy to do. So, but if you're obviously on an athletic team, you're already driven in that way. So that's kind of a built-in asset that you have, but you have to tap into that a lot. Even after your playing days, you have to tap into that no quit, no settling, go check the bag for that mentality in life, and advocate that. If and when you choose to have kids, like, advocate that for them, and don't let them like settle for whatever just because they think, well, that's not gonna work out. Well, why don't you try? Right. And that's hard too. Because for me, I'll always see the best in people until they repeatedly show me otherwise. And then I'll be like, all right, then it's my Angelo, believe in the first time. I should have believed in the first time. When people show you who they are. But, I always have hope that there's good in people, more so than there's not good in people. And we're more alike than we're not alike is something that I'll always understand too. But I think the best thing to say, if there be a hashtag, it would just be true to yourself, and don't settle, for anything other than that.
No, I appreciate that, and I hope our students are hearing this, like taking this in. I swear this will be an episode I will go back and listen to, because you've given a lot today. I appreciate what you've given us in this hour today. But before we sign off, I want to bring some little fun to you. So we have a segment we call Rapid Fire. So I'm going to ask a question, and you're going to give me the first thing that comes to mind. So first question is, March Madness is here. What is your favorite part about the dance?
That you never know who's going to win it, man. It's just, that I make my bracket every year, and that thing is a hot mess express 2 weeks in. So yeah, all out of lines, and they're like, wrong.
I know sometimes the upsets are the best part, because you just never know.
Yeah.
Favorite current women's basketball player, collegiate or pro? I'm gonna give it open because you work with a lot of people.
Collegiate or pro?
Yep.
My favorite right now. Oh, let's see.
Probably so many to choose from.
That's a lot. I really do love Natasha Cloud.
I knew you were going to say that.
You did. And I say that because she's so bold spirited, man. She encourages me, man. Like, she doesn't even know. She does
a lot for the community, and I don't think, like, outside of what she does on the court, is all of the other things, right? Like, great choice. What is your favorite thing about the DC, Maryland, Virginia area?
Oh my gosh. My most favorite thing about the DMV, first of all, is the unity. And we all DMV, and whenever I see anybody DMV, we're like, listen, DMV, the pride of the DMV is my favorite thing. But my favorite thing would be how beautiful it is here. And just, I like to be outside. I like to take a lot of walks. I like to take in nature and just be all about the different pockets of beauty of this area all the time.
And then our last question is, what is your favorite Maryland memory?
Whoa. You've had some really good questions today. And that one just sent chills down my arm because how do I choose one thing? Oh, wow. I don't know. I just had like 100 things flash in my head. I will say, going to the Final Four, winning in that last regional championship game was a 9:00 game, and I was stressed out beyond belief all day. Like, oh, we had to take walks around the hotel. Like it was like 3 PM. I was like, oh my God, we have 6 hours. It was like so stressful. And all the other teams had gotten into the Final Four with Tennessee, Auburn, La Tech, and then ours was the 4th spot. So Texas was undefeated at their place. They're 34-0 or something ridiculous like that. And we had them at their place. And we had our band and a handful of parents. And every time they scored, that floor was shaking. I couldn't hear my teammates 2 feet away from me. But when we won, though, it was amazing. So I would say if there was one memory because the year before we lost to Auburn, we were pretty young though, sophomores and juniors. And we had lost the year before, and they had measured us for our Final Four ring and everything the year before. So the fact that we got over the hump that year and qualified to go to the Final Four, and we got measured for our rings again, and we were all getting measured right before we even played the Texas game. And we were like, remember, we got measured last year. We didn't get these jokers. We're going to get a ring this time. So it was great. Just to do that with my sisters for life was amazing, especially in that environment. And then after the game, they were all doing the hook 'em, and it was quiet. It was like quiet, and they were all standing like this. We were like, let's get these nets and get out of here. We were like, bye-bye. But it was quite a memorable moment. I'll never forget that, like how good that felt. We were running, chasing each other around the court, and it was like screaming, like it was amazing. So yeah, for me, that was my favorite moment.
I love that. And I hope our current women's team gets to experience what you've experienced. It is a feeling that many people can't say that they've had. So I think that is phenomenal. Well, like I said, I want to thank you for participating in this conversation today. How would you like to share with our listeners how they can follow up with you after this? What social media handles, etc.? Want to share those with our listeners?
Absolutely. On Twitter, I had to do a new Twitter because someone got into my old one. So, but my new one is doing well right now. Okay. So I'm excited about that. But just to have a place like, to interact with like-minded people has been fantastic. But it's Christy, CHRISTY 51 W Scott. And then on Instagram, it's Christy W Scott 51.
Well, I appreciate you so much. To all of our Maryland student athletes, a reminder that the Women in the Workplace panel will be on Tuesday, March 28th, right when you all return from spring break. This discussion, again, this is just a Kickstarter to what we're going to experience on that night. So remember to celebrate Women's History in March, but also all year long. And that's a wrap for the Maryland Made podcast.
Thank you so much.